cobbled together Envy the Jealous. Now, he's not my favorite homunculus, but he's definitely one of the best written. We spend a lot of time with him. He's introduced in episode 5 and survives until season 5. Also, along with Lust and Gluttony, Envy does a lot of Father's field work, and so we get to see him in action more often than, say, Pride. Though, Envy's specialty is infiltration, for obvious reasons. Envy is the first of the homunculi whose abilities I felt were really clever. He can transform all or part of his body into that of another person or creature, even going so far as he can transform his arm into a sword. How freaking cool is that? He was able to transform one arm into a sword and the other arm into a snake. That's freaking awesome. Anyway, as a shapeshifter, Envy has many forms throughout the course of the show, but he usually shows himself as either an enormous freaking lizard monster covered in arms and faces of the tortured souls inside of him, or a youngish human with a strange sense of fashion and an Ouroboros tattoo on his thigh. This is his usual form, and it's deliberately designed to look androgynous. I'm going to refer to Envy as he throughout this video because that's what the show says, so I'm taking it as canon. But his true form isn't the gender-vague palm tree person or even the grotesque lizard monster thing with way too many heads. No, it's a small, worm-like version of the lizard monster who's completely helpless other than his ability to take control of others, like the parasite he is. That aside, Envy as a character is fascinating precisely because he seems so simple at first. Envy looks like a pretty stereotypical unhinged villain at first because he's the first homunculus who seems to hate humans in earnest. I mean, Lust looked down on humans and enjoyed their pain, but Envy is bitter. He revels in how he started the Ishvalan War by killing a child, and mocks humans at every opportunity he gets, especially because...
I shouldn't be surprised. That's just how all you humans are. You put emotions before common sense.
All the same, he loves playing with people's emotions, mimicking their loved ones during fights, taunting them with their past misdeeds, lying to them, deliberately calling them names he knows they hate. You get the gist. However, unlike Lust, he is equally easy to taunt. Easily the most temperamental homunculus, he threatens Greed for mocking him, yells at Wrath for letting Mustang get away with burning Lust, and cries when he's beaten and humiliated. He also acts distinctly childish when his emotions get the better of him, especially with his over-the-top enthusiasm for causing humans pain. This paints him as mildly ridiculous compared to his siblings, since they're almost universally better in control of themselves than him. On the topic of siblings, Envy has a lot of interactions with other homunculi. At around 170 years old, he's unsurprisingly the middle child. Pride and he don't really associate with each other, but he seems to be good scheming partners with his second oldest sibling, Lust. He puts up with Gluttony, even though he calls him a slob, and together the three make up Father's Task Force Dream Team. Wrath looks down on Envy's violent mood swings, and Envy probably dislikes Wrath's greater control of his emotions. It's kind of vague. What isn't vague is that Greed and Envy hate each other, even though they have a lot of similarities, like a sense of aesthetics. Though I guess they disagree on that one too.
And little Envy the Jealous, please, for the last time, get a new outfit.
But on a more serious note, it makes sense that Envy and Greed hate each other, precisely because they are so similar. Their sins are both related to other people's goods, but while Greed wants them for himself, Envy wants them destroyed because he doesn't have them. Greed wants everything, including and especially love, so he builds what almost amounts to a cult around himself. Meanwhile, Envy wants pretty much the same thing: unconditional love, the ability to change, the ability to forgive, but tries to destroy these in others instead of get them for himself. Furthermore, Greed was created immediately before Envy, and unlike Envy, is cool under pressure, willing to sacrifice anything to get what he wants, and honest in his own weird, chaotic, neutral way. Envy isn't any of these things, and probably wishes he was. It's like Envy is the bitter reaction to the inability to satisfy your greed. Greed's also in many ways the most human of the homunculi, and we all know Envy's feelings towards humans. Anyway, some shenanigans ensue, which I don't really have time to get into, but the short of it is that Envy shapeshifts to look like Gracia Hughes to kill Maze. Now, Mustang was mildly annoyed when his best friend and supporter was brutally murdered, so 4 seasons later, when Envy brags about how easy it was to kill Maze right in front of him, Mustang snaps. Repeatedly. In this last fight, Envy several times tries to mess with people by assuming the forms of their friends. It inevitably backfires. Also, Mustang burns Envy's eyes shut several times in this encounter, which could be a reference to the punishment of the envious in, you guessed it, the Purgatorio. In the end, Envy's reduced to his true form and is 1 firebolt away from death. Hawkeye, Scar, and Dad give Mustang a talk about not crossing that little red line, and Envy is shocked and angry that these people are working together, and even that they're sparing him. At this point, a very interesting interaction occurs.
You're jealous. You're jealous of humans, aren't you? Our loved ones are always there to pick us back up. You envy us because of that.
Fool, you just have to forsake one little village to save an entire country. Too bad you don't have the stomach to do the logical thing. Can you really shoot such a sad face? Can you, boy? I shouldn't be surprised. That's just how all you humans are. This time around I'll go with a younger, cuter model. What do you say? You humans don't make any sense to me. You throw away your lives for nothing. Another foolish human.
I'd like to note that all of these quotes are from previous scenes in the show, except for the humans? Humans? At the end. After this, Envy starts crying, calls being understood by Ed the ultimate humiliation. Clearly he doesn't know anything about Tumblr, and kills himself by pulling out his Philosopher's Stone. Envy or jealousy is bitterness or sorrow at another's good. Envy, the character, is the part of Father that hated that he couldn't be human, the part of him that wanted vengeance against a world that was unfair, the part that could have been happy if he'd only learned to accept what he had and what he was. He hates humans, hates greed, and hates himself because he hates what he wants. He wants to be strong enough to be weak. He wants to be his own person. He wants to be loved. The more he sees these in others, the worse he treats them. The worse people treat him, the more he emulates them. He learned his cruelty from Father, a man willing to create, use, and kill his own children to achieve his goals. For his entire life, Envy's existence has hinged on his usefulness to Father, so he lived in fear of his inner weakness and ugliness. By pretending that everyone else is a pathetic worm, he tries to hide that he is a pathetic worm. But this doesn't make him happy. Instead, he's just constantly measuring himself against others until the facade breaks, and it destroys him. This is what makes Envy, one of the evilest characters of Brotherhood, genuinely sympathetic. He is one of the best written of the homunculi, and arguably the most tragic. What do you think of Envy? Good, bad, good because he's bad? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. Coming up soon is Sloth, assuming I get around to it. Until then, have a great day everyone, and as always, keep an eye out for me.